Welcome back to Give Me Rent. This is Noah and Dylan.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Today we're going to be doing our first movie review of the year. I think 2026 is off to a good start. This week we got 28 years later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta, who's taking over from Danny Boyle from last year's 28 years later. I know they filmed these back to back, but this movie definitely has different DNA. And I really was taken back by her direction in this movie.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that's the first thing you mentioned because I don't know if you've seen her rebooted Candyman film.
I've not. This was my first. Yeah,
Yes.
the reason I said that as I did was this was my introduction to Nia DaCosta.
Neither of us have seen the Marvels, but I've seen Candyman, which I thought was not particularly the greatest movie, but my biggest note from that film was how interesting her direction was.
Yeah.
I think she was a smart choice as director for this movie. I think it really paid off.
Yeah, I'd say definitely different than what, Danny did with the first part. Like I said, you don't get a lot of those, slow-mo, I guess, kind of bullet time type shots, from the first
where you
movie.
kind of felt the iPhone rig.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially,
yeah.
the utilization of that. I don't know if I felt that as much in this movie, but there's a lot of really striking visuals.
Yeah.
And her, sense of direction, while being different, is really interesting.
Yeah, I would honestly say one of my biggest notes for this film is how they balanced out the incredibly gnarly stuff, because there's some really gruesome stuff in this movie, with great moments of levity and true beauty, especially in the cinematography.
Yeah,
it looks incredible.
I think, from those listening in, I think you get the idea that we both enjoyed this film.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, I'd say, that have been a little bit more critical on it, since it's released a few days ago. A lot of people have criticized, I guess, really the lead, or I guess, Spike from the first movie, a main character, does take a side kind of role in this film.
I'm going to say it. I think this movie belongs to Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell. I think
it completely does.
They are the two leads.
But do
of
you
this
think
movie.
that's weird for a movie that's continuing a story from, the first, where you do really follow Spike? It is his story mainly. And then he does take a back seat in this film.
It is interesting because he still kind of is this somewhat of the central character that we're following.
But you are kind of following him. A lot of what he does in this movie is just reacting to things going on, and there's not really any mention, especially of what happened with his mother in the last movie, and a few of those things. So I feel like that's a valid criticism. That's one of the criticisms I have about this film as well.
I still think Alfie Williams gives a good performance. In
Yeah,
this
no,
movie.
he 100% does. But it was interesting to see, especially since this came out less than a year after the first. It was interesting to see their choice to make him, take a back seat.
I was
in this
shocked
film.
both times because with the first 28 years later, I'm shocked how much of a lead he is in it, and now I'm shocked how much of a back seat he's taken in the second movie. That is true, but I gotta say, Jack O'Connell and Fiennes are insane.
Well, let's
They're
start.
so good in this movie, dude.
Let's start by talking about the new characters, the Jimmy Gang, who were introduced in 28 years later in such a bold, I would say, Danny Boyle type of way.
Mm-hmm.
That ending with the Teletubbies rendition, I guess the punk rock rendition of it, watching them literally fly around like Power Rangers and take on zombies. Obviously, the idea was to showcase that they love violence, and they're just in a world that is just all violence, and they literally enjoy dishing it out. That's something this movie clearly gets from the first scene.
No, yeah. As someone who really enjoyed that first, the first movie, this new trilogy, or hopefully, I was still pretty shocked by that rug pull at the end. It definitely comes out of nowhere. It's a crazy tonal shift.
I think,
It is.
I've even seen a video about Nia DaCosta spoke on this. She was saying that, that was very much a Danny Boyle decision. And a lot of people before this movie came out were talking to her and expecting this movie to be a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And right in the first scene of this movie, it establishes, no, that is not the direction she was going to take the Jimmy Gang. And I think the first scene you get with, having Spike be put up against one of the Jimmies in a, straight fight to the death.
Yeah.
Was a great kind of, once again, a tonal shift to really reintroduce the Jimmy Gang and show really what they're all about. I mean, I thought it was just a sickly, dark opening to this movie that really set the tone for what was to come. Because another thing that people
I don't want to go too heavy on spoilers, but I will say, you're talking about the beginning, both of the openings to 28 years Later and Bone Temple are incredible in
Yeah.
their own right. They're very different openings,
Yeah.
but they really set the tone.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think another criticism people have about this, but I think for me it's kind of a strength, is just the way this movie kind of balances tone is so
Mhm.
jarring at times. Because one moment you have people,
It's
such
not as crazy as
gratuitous
that rug pull in
violence.
the first movie. It never goes
It
that
never
crazy.
is, but there's so much more switching of like to straight comedy to like straight grotesque, like gross out
Yeah.
horror. I think she balanced it very well, but I can see
It's
this.
much better balanced than especially that, final 10 minutes of the last
Well, the
movie.
reason it was so jarring in the first one is because there really wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, and then it just
now I'm really
shifts.
talking about just the balance of just dark humor, regular humor. Honestly,
Yeah,
with the stuff
I
with
didn't
Samson.
expect the amount of humor in this movie that there was.
Yeah,
agree.
I will say, I think for me, a lot of it really did work. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about this one particular sequence if you enjoyed the movie, especially. But yeah, our theater actually erupted into cheers
Yeah.
after Ray Fiennes' pivotal scene in this movie. Towards the end of it, I don't want to reveal exactly what he does, but it was it was out there. But
Yeah.
I welcomed it. I mean, these last two movies are just so weird, and
Mhm.
I love them for it because in the end of the day, you could have done a generic, legacy sequel to 28 weeks later, or 28 days later, my mistake. But instead, with that first movie, and especially with how it went, it was just so unexpected. It left so much, I guess, room, to explore
Yeah.
in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think everything I really wanted to happen, everything I expected, not expected, but everything I really hoped for, like, it was met. I feel like this
Yeah.
movie was every single scene, because you kind of have essentially two storylines going on that eventually meet in the end and it just explodes. But I think both storylines were so interesting to watch.
Yeah.
There was never a dull moment.
It was never jumping. Yeah, it was never jumping to the
There's
other thing,
never
and you're
any
like,
time wasted in
I'll
this
go
movie.
back.
And I think something this movie did so well in this franchise was, like, I mean, it hammered down the message from the first movie just so well, and I think it's the darkest since 28 Days,
yeah,
like by far, and it still has the comedy jumps, which are insane. But yeah, this movie is dark, like insanely dark at times, and I think that it's interesting to see. I guess these two movies did kind of stand alone because we're setting up a third, but it really was Jimmy's two movies in a way.
yeah.
We start 28 years later with showing
Jimmy Crystal. Yeah,
with Jimmy,
Yeah.
Jimmy Crystal, and we see the progression in this movie. I mean, to what he became is this movie, because you don't really get a lot of Jimmy in the first movie. It just starts and ends with him.
yeah.
But I thought it was such a fascinating introduction to him and his gang, and for me, I thought they really worked. I thought they were very intimidating. Obviously, Jack O'Connell himself is just such a presence, like we saw in Remick or in Sinners about a year ago. But I thought he was just so insanely charismatic in this role, but
Yeah.
also just so dark. You really just couldn't look away
Yeah, I
from him.
really like characters where you feel the intensity whenever they're on screen. Like, you don't know what they're gonna do. He's insanely unpredictable,
Yeah.
and he brought that. Like, he really brought, like, I never knew what he was going to do, and it had me on edge the entire time.
Yeah, I think the movie it's got, I mean, it's not structured. It's structured in a very interesting way because, again, it's kind of playing out like two anthology stories going on in this universe in a
Yeah.
way, especially with Spike taking a backseat.
Yeah, to compare it to the first movie, like, it is a much more, I don't want to say intimate, because I think the first movie was very intimate too, but it's much more smaller scale. Just scale wise, it's a lot
Scaled
smaller.
down.
Yeah,
Not even. I feel like it's focused on the message of the franchise a little bit more.
yeah.
But it's not focused as internally on the characters, which, we're
Yeah.
saying so much good things about these characters, but I think what the Jimmy gang represents was so well done. Jack O'Connell obviously stands out the most from it as, Jimmy Crystal, the leader of this gang. But yeah, I think this movie, as you said, it really does belong to Ray Fiennes. Like, he just brought it. Like, Dr. Kelson, his trip progression from the first movie to this was just so interesting to watch.
yeah.
And I will say, I think they did such unexpected things with the character, and I think the marketing for this movie played very well into like expectations because I was just stunned with the direction they went with, especially for Kelson.
I think a lot of the criticisms for this movie, people are mad that it's like not a generic movie. Like these are not generic films.
It doesn't even have that much zombie action in it, all
Yeah.
that, but it gets the message of 28, the franchise, the 28 franchise, so well.
This is the one definitely with like the least amount of zombie stuff. Like it's more about humans. In this one.
And that's what I expect. That's what I meant before when I said it met my expectations in that regard. Because I expected it to really just with the Jimmy Gang focus on what this world could do to people like that. Where they were kids when this started, and all they knew was pretty much. I mean, they reference the Teletubbies a lot. They wear, as messed up as it is, their hair is to resemble Jimmy Savile. Like back in 2001 when the outbreak started. They wouldn't have known, what we know today about that person. Like, they rooted their ideology in their childhood stuff, but also what they now knew, a world of violence. And I thought it was just so fun to watch them operate, to see how they speak amongst one another. From that first scene, you can kind of get very well, like, how this gang operates. And really just watching Jimmy be that leader, like, his rules set up, all that. It was just very interesting to watch. I think...
Yeah.
Every single time he got to a moment where he was, he has you on edge, he's smiling and saying all these very charismatic things, and then it'll just be a needle drop, and it'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. Now I'm gonna, shove your intestines down your throat. Like, just something as intense as that, but delivered in such a kind of comedic way, to be honest. Jack O'Connell was just so good at just being so darkly funny in this.
Yeah, he's really... I actually hope he gets typecast, and I keep bring us more horror villains with Jack O'Connell because he's so good in these just like deeply charismatic but dark roles.
Yeah, I do want to talk specifically about some spoiler-filled stuff, but before we get there, I kind of want to do a quick ranking of this franchise because I'm curious to see your thoughts. I think both of us would agree that 28 Weeks Later is the weakest of these films.
I would probably agree with that. Yeah.
I think what's interesting about 28 Weeks Later is that it kind of goes against the first movie and does some tropey things from the zombie franchise. Mm-hmm. Not that they're not enjoyable to watch, but the first one is so well regarded and so memorable because it's unconventional. That's why I think these last two have worked so well because they just really stand out in a genre.
I really like 28 Weeks too. I think this is
it's fun.
This is shaping out to be one of the strongest horror franchises we've ever
100%. 28 Weeks Later is a solid movie, but I think just with how out there and interesting the three from I think all three of the other ones are written by Alex Garland, correct?
Yeah.
So I think those obviously you have that added fact, and I don't know. I just felt like 28 Weeks has the most kind of tropey zombie stuff in it from the franchise.
I'd probably agree that 28 Weeks is probably.
I still think it's a pretty solid flick. I agree.
I think this is where it gets. We might differ. What do you have at 3?
I think I'm gonna put The Bone Temple at 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I still really love this movie.
It might be recency bias, but I might put Bone Temple over 28 years.
That's fair. I think for me, what shocked me so much about 28 Years was just how intimate it did get with Spike and his mom in that storyline.
Yeah.
And yeah, you could say the first half after the movie wasn't as focused on that and all this. But I was really impressed with how they were able to create, such a kind of heartfelt story amongst this landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Such a rough and unforgiving world. And for them to find some beauty amongst it was honestly just so interesting.
I think they did it possibly even better in the Bone Temple.
I mean, yes, with the Samson, Dr. Kelson storyline, I can see what you're saying. But I think I enjoyed Spike's stuff a little bit more in 28 Years.
Yeah, and he was really strong.
But I think we could both agree that the number one would be 28 Days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genuinely just such an iconic movie. Just in the horror space, in the zombie space specifically, it's just one of the best in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a classic movie nowadays. Also just the way it was shot, just kind of on camcorders, just kind of adding to that grimy aspect of the whole film. It's a one-of-one movie. I really think it's so distinct in the genre, and it's this whole franchise. I really think it stemmed one of the strongest horror franchises we've ever gotten.
I think one thing a lot of these movies do well is I'm not sure if Weeks does it, but a lot of the other three, they have really great music choices.
Yeah.
Especially Bone Temple. I mean, that's recently because I saw
Bone
it the
Temple,
most-
I was shocked by some of the music choices,
Yeah.
and I thought it really worked.
There is some great. I mean, the most memorable scene in the movie uses an Iron Maiden song. I'm not going to say which one, but
Yeah.
it was.
And then there's Duran Duran. Like,
Yeah,
there's-
some great choices.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how all the song choices
Radiohead.
worked in it,
There's
yeah.
some really great songs in Bone Temple, and even in years, and it's been a minute since I've seen Days, but there's some great stuff in there. I mean, they're just so distinct. These movies just really stand out, and like I'm all for getting more weird horror movies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, it was a January release, and I think this month is known to have releases that are less than stellar. It's not known as a good month to release movies. I think this is probably the best January movie I've ever seen, especially, I mean, at least in theaters.
It's my favorite January movie in a while, for sure. I'd have to really think about that.
We still have more
Look
release.
into
I
that.
really hope
But it's
Send
up
Help's
there.
great. We have other releases this month as well that could match this.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just happy we started the year with actually a great movie.
Yeah, generally.
Like
I
it's
thought
not
this
for
was a
everyone,
banger.
but me and you, like even some of the people we saw had a lot of criticisms, on for the movie.
It's
Me
not
and
for
you,
everyone.
it's
I'm not
definitely
sitting
not.
here and saying it's for everyone, but did it work for me? 100%.
Yeah, it was. I think. I mean, our theater was really into it. Everyone was clapping by the end of it. I mean, clapping during major sequences in this movie.
Yeah.
I will say, maybe this one has more standout sequences than years, but I'd have to rewatch it. There's just some really memorable
I
stuff
can't
in
wait to
this.
watch them back to back because it
Yeah.
continues right away.
Even
Like, it
if
doesn't-
somehow we don't get the third, these at least are two really good.
Yeah.
It's a great duology, right?
But-
here. Like,
Speaking of the third, I think we have to move on to spoilers real quick.
well, I think
Let's do a quick spoiler alert right now.
Yeah, I
Because
think
the
jumping
ending-
into spoilers. Please go ahead.
Well, I think the ending of this movie, we had kind of had an inclination that this might end the way that it did, sort of. But we see Jim, Cillian Murphy's character from 28 Days Later.
Yeah, it's the first to really. Well, okay, so the movie The Bone Temple starts with you do hear Jim's voice from the first film.
Yeah.
Puts it in your head that we're kind of, for hardcore fans of the franchise, you'll catch that. And it'll be in your head. You're like, oh, okay, that was Jim's voice at the beginning of it. You get to the end of the movie, Jim actually appears with seemingly his daughter. You don't know if, his girlfriend or wife survived, whatever he became. We'll probably find out in the third movie.
But
it
we
was
don't
interesting-
know what happened to Selena, and we
It
don't.
was most interesting to see that they weren't rescued.
Yeah.
Because that first movie ends with a plane a plane spotting them.
Mhm.
So we'll have to, if we get to the third, we'll have to be explained what really happened there. But yeah, this movie ends with Jim and his daughter seeing Spike and one of the Jimmy gang. I do forget her name, but the one who escaped with Spike. She does reveal her name at the end of the movie to him. But yeah, they're on the run now from a horde.
Her
And-
name's Kelly.
Kelly.
Her real name.
And Jim and her daughter see, and they, she questions Jim, should we help them? And he says yes, which leads us into the third movie, which has so many possibilities for where the story could go.
Yeah.
With
Obviously big questions are where's Selena, where's Hannah? Like, they're just not there, which is interesting.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's two people that were Jim at the end of the last one. So
Yeah.
or the first movie. Yeah, that's crazy to really think about. What happened there?
I don't know. It's
It's been 20
I think they've written that. There's no way they just throw.
Oh,
it
I'm
in,
sure
yeah.
they know. Of course.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason they're not there.
But yeah, there's a clear
Or
way
even
that they
referenced.
want to bridge this into the third movie. Like it would start right away with Killian.
Or
his
not.
supposed daughter.
You never know.
No,
It
wouldn't
could-
start with him trying to saving Spike and Kelly.
You never know because this movie didn't start, with where we left off in the last one. It started
started
probably a day or
pretty-
two later.
Yeah, but like it was like right off of like what we had seen. Like it was pretty immediate.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was still very much a continuation. I'm
Like, I
just
don't think
saying,
it would,
you might not see what them
what
getting
happened?
rescued.
Yeah.
by
That's
Jim.
true. That's fair.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, it all depends on the time that it takes to make this too.
Mhm.
I think that's a big factor here.
Yeah, the ending of the movie was just absolutely wild. You get Kelson's, I guess, performance, as you want to call it. It was just his
One of
performance
the-
to the Jimmy Gang and his
Great scene.
back and forth, his kind of chemistry with Jack O'Connell and all that was just the most interesting dynamic of the film gave us. It was the most interesting
Yeah.
I guess
Their
bits.
first conversation is incredible.
Yeah.
Because Jack O'Connell genuinely thinks
The old
he's,
Nick stuff was just
he's going out to talk to the devil and stuff. Like, it's just
Oh, I was actually
great scene.
scared. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really well done by both of them. They're by far the best parts of the movie. So seeing them finally like come together, pretty much the two storylines merging by the third act was just so fun. Because yeah, it was kind of wondering like where's it gonna go, and I will say I liked how it culminated. I thought it was very interesting. It was very bold to end it with a Iron Maiden performance leading to just a very, I wouldn't say quiet ending, but it was just very much not what you'd expect.
Yeah. Did you expect Kelson to like actually cure the virus in this movie?
Yeah, that we didn't even get to that. Yeah, I mean, we have a full zombie.
We're avoiding spoilers, so yeah,
he's
that's
still,
like the biggest
he's
one.
still infected by the infection in a way.
Yeah.
But there's nothing clouding his mind anymore, which is very interesting. I think that's going to throw a lot of people off of this movie. A lot of people aren't going to like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
But we knew from the first one they were doing such weird things with, especially with the pregnancy you see in the first one, which is weird that that's not even referenced. That's going to have to be dealt with.
We haven't been back to that town yet.
100%. I think there's a lot of things that just need to be closed on Spike's end in the next movie, especially the stuff with his family. But this movie leaves you off wondering like what could they really do with the third one.
Yeah.
There's obviously there is story to tell, but I don't really know exactly what they're going to go for in the next one.
Yeah, like is it going to have
a
lot to do with Samson?
Will Samson interact with them? I don't know.
Genuinely, Samson can just run off, and that's that. You know,
you might not see him ever again.
It could be that it's just they're never going to.
Well, I think with what you said, knowing that
cure.
The craziest thing, one of the craziest things about the ending is that Kelson, or one of the things about the whole movie is that Kelson kind of solves the infection in a way. Like kind of, they're still infected, but they solved the part that makes them so feral and crazy, and the fact that kind of makes them zombies.
Yeah.
So knowing he died with that knowledge, it's just kind of interesting.
My thing is like, does Samson like kind of remember what he did to him though?
Probably
could
not,
Samson
but they
pass
might
it on?
They might realize that he was able to cure him, and so now we know it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this franchise is so interesting where a lot of things that you think are going to have big ramifications happen, and they don't go the way you exactly expect.
It's super unpredictable. Like seriously,
I know.
Like both of these last two movies, I think the whole franchise is very unpredictable. Like it throws you a lot of loops in the movies, and you never really know quite where it's going.
Yeah, I really, really do want the third one though. Even though I'm saying I don't know where it's gonna go. But listen, Cillian Murphy back in the franchise.
Yeah, I gotta see it.
It's so exciting.
I'm seated.
Even though I was kind of questioning, like, how is he here, but just seeing that cottage again. He's in the area he was by the end of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
So just fans knew that right off the bat. I was like, oh, wow, okay. He's been here for 28 years. He hasn't even moved. It's interesting because I guess he wasn't that far from, where Spike was.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll know by the time the third movie comes out.
Or, yeah, maybe Spike has just ventured pretty damn far from his original home.
Yeah. Yeah, no matter what, I really just hope we do get the third.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this movie does well enough to garner the third. It's a little too early to tell. I don't think it's doing super, super amazing at the box office, but I know people are really enjoying it.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, Sony was pretty confident in it. They definitely started talking about making the third, after reactions to this came out.
Yeah. I just think through the passion that like Cillian and Alex Garland and Danny Boyle have for this franchise, I think it will inevitably get made. It's just I hope it gets made sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Listen, I'm really, really hopeful.
Yeah. But have you guys seen the Bone Temple? We are curious what you guys think, because I do think this will be divisive like the last one. It's, for sure. So maybe leave a comment what you guys think about the Bone Temple, but we'll catch you guys next time.